Hello traders, Ryan here, and today we're going to be doing some market technical analysis for Monday, June 28th. We're going to be analyzing the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, and just kind of looking at things from a technical perspective. So let's get right into it, and first we're going to look at the Nasdaq. So we're using the QQQ ETF, and we're starting looking at a daily chart. So this entire chart represents 1 year. Each candle represents 1 day. And some things that I'll point out right away is you can see that the RSI finally touched 70 today. We've been kind of getting close for a while, and we finally broke and are touching 70, which is kind of an overbought signal short term on the RSI. So that's definitely something that I'm looking at. We also see that the candle today, which you can see right here, we had a pretty nice day in the market with it being green, and you can see that it actually slightly broke over the top Bollinger Band. So the Bollinger Bands are a technical indicator, and pretty much this is the middle band. Then you have your upper band and lower band. These represent a standard deviation, so it's pretty much expected to stay in this range. And when something goes above the top band or below the bottom band, typically it reverts back into the bands very quickly. So when you see this breaking above the top band, it means that it's moving more than the typical standard deviation away from the mean. So this could also be an overbought signal, or a signal that things are going to, either the bands are going to widen and go higher, or the stock price is going to go back down somewhere in this band range. Looking at the MACD, the momentum is still looking bullish. We have the MACD pointing up, but it is getting close to making a cross, which would be a death cross, which would also be a bearish indicator. But it's not quite there yet, and so this could lead to more days before there's a death cross. So it's definitely not going to crash tomorrow or anything, but it's definitely something to keep an eye out for, that when these do cross, which this is typically a lagging indicator, so you'll see the price action of the death cross before you actually do see the death cross. So that's also something to keep in mind. Looking at volume, we reached new all-time highs on medium volume. It was higher than it has been for like the last week, but it's definitely not high volume. But that is definitely important to see the volume. If we were reaching these new all-time highs on low volume, it would definitely be a very bearish signal. But since we're at kind of a medium volume, it's not necessarily extremely bearish at this point. So that's the longer term for the Nasdaq. Looking at a 1 hour chart, it's pretty similar. We have the RSI much higher at 77, so it's looking even more overbought on a shorter term time frame. You can draw also your trend lines here, and that'll also give you an example where you are in the current channel. So we're kind of at the top of our channel trend line. Once again, we're also going over the top Bollinger Band, or in this example, we went slightly over the top Bollinger Band, and that was right at market close. And it's since snapped back into the bands. Like I've mentioned, it usually breaks over the top band and almost instantly breaks back below the top band. So we're showing overbought on the RSI. The Bollinger Bands are also showing overbought, and the MACD, the momentum is actually starting to flatten out, still pointed higher, but once again, this is also getting close to a death cross. All it would take would be a couple of red candles, and this would be making the death cross, which would be our lagging indicator, and at that point price would already be lower. So overall, Nasdaq, in my opinion, is looking overbought in the short term, and it could definitely have a correction in the next couple of weeks or maybe couple of months. But I don't think it's going to take that long. Next, let's look at the S&P 500. We kind of have a similar situation here, but it's not quite as bullish. So the RSI is not quite overbought. It's not at 70, but this is also almost more interesting in my opinion. We have the S&P 500 making brand new all-time highs today at $427. And you see we have a huge bearish divergence on the RSI. So typically what we want to see when a market is at all-time highs is the RSI making higher highs. We would want to see the RSI above this level because right now we're looking at a bearish divergence. The RSI, the momentum is pretty much lower while we're at highs. So this is a bearish indicator, and this is what's called a bearish divergence. Just like you'll see in my charting back here, you see we have a high, and up here we made higher highs and we have a bearish divergence, and shortly after that we have a small correction in a matter of a couple of days. So something like this definitely could come off the S&P 500 and we could have you know, a 1 to 10% correction. For it to get to 416 here, it would only be like 4% or 3%, so it's really not that big of a dip to make a big technical move. On the MACD, we actually have a very close to making a death cross. It's kind of at stalled momentum currently, so the MACD really not showing too much, but it is pretty close together and could be making a death cross. On a shorter term time frame, looking at the hourly, we have once again we have our divergence here. It's actually a little bit more clear right here. And the MACD, once again, it looks pretty similar. It could be making a death cross soon, but it's really not a clear reading. And it is on the upper end of the channel and above the top Bollinger Band. So in my opinion, the market as a whole, including the S&P 500 and including the Nasdaq, could be overdue for a short-term correction. I'm not calling for a market crash or, you know, the Great Recession, but I think even a 3 to 10% correction are going to be coming soon, and I guess we'll see how that plays out. So that's our analysis for today, Monday, June 28th. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know how you're analyzing these markets, if you think it's going to go higher and why, or if you think it's going to go lower, and your reasoning behind that. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.